Tracy and Ira stuff.
Yeah, just tangle down the window of my neighborhood's right. Okay, everybody, welcome back. We'll just begin, if we could, with the 11 o'clock session, which is the budget presentation of Minneapolis Television Network. And Ms. Bornstein, I wondered if you might be able to introduce the topic for us, even though you're in Minneapolis City Communications Department.
Sure. Good morning. Thank you, Chair Quincy, council members. My name is Bridget Bornstein. I'm the Deputy Communications Director here at the City of Minneapolis. As you may know, the Minneapolis Telecommunications Network, also known as MTN, is an item that technically falls under the Communications Department. We manage the annual contract for public access television services with MTN, so the funding for MTN is, so to speak, a pass-through in our own budget. But to give the budget presentation for MTN this morning is MTN's fairly new Executive Director, Tanae Wells.
Good. Thank you very much. Ms. Wells, welcome. Welcome to your first budget hearing, right?
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Committee Chair Quincy and members of the council that are here. We are honored. I'm here with a couple members of our board, possibly joined by members of our staff, and we really want to thank you for this opportunity to present our 2017 funding request. As you know, the mission of MTN is to operate a media center that helps the residents develop the skills to increase social, civic, and economic equity and freedom of expression in our community via the transformation and the creative act, creating and broadcasting media. We are greatly appreciative of the investment that the City Council and the City of Minneapolis has given us for all of these years, and really supports the rights of all of our citizens to freely exercise the freedom of speech, to the press, and the rights for people to peacefully to assemble and petition the government for the regress of their grievances, but also, we believe, much more importantly, for what creates our democracy. I think we predicated on the freedom of speech and the expression that our citizens need space. They need a place and tools that give them the ability to be able to connect and to engage with each other as well as with our government. To that end, we provide the following services. We have 3 channels. I hope you're watching them, 16, 17, and 75. We produce and disseminate over 2,500 hours of media on these 3 channels, a lot of new media. Words like unique and unconventional have been used to describe our programs. However, I hope you're familiar with the Viva and Jerry show, and also Judy Carrera. Some of you have been on Mary Hansen's program. Also Ron Edwards and Somali. We also have a Somali and La Familia programming that we create. We do the Northeast Parade, Family Day for the Urban League, as well as the University of Minnesota and Fairview's Turtle Parades. And so we do quite a bit of what I would call very unique, but also I think very necessary local media that really tells the stories of the people of our great city. 55%, and this is something that I just recently found out and I'm really proud to represent, is that 55% of the content on our stations is created by people of African descent, either African Americans or African or people or immigrants from Africa. And so I think as you think about our programming currently, I think it's the unique and the diverse appeal that we have that makes us kind of a unique opportunity for everybody to tell their story. We are requesting $472,000 from the general fund. What I'd like to say is that we want to leverage your investment to upgrade and increase the amount of access and programming to fully represent the diversity of One Minneapolis. I think to reach some of those goals, to help you reach your Living Well goals. One Minneapolis, I think we obviously as a television station and producer, we're extremely innovative and creative. We want to promote the greatness of all of the city's residents, and we want to really show how the city empowers equity and good health and connectedness that will lead to the growth and prosperity for everyone in our city. So we think we give a good return in terms of the investment that the city makes. In 2017, we've got a lot of new goals. As a new executive director, I prefer to call myself the chief of imagination. But what I really like to say is that we've got some pretty ambitious goals that I think are quite doable. First and foremost, we have a very competent and dedicated staff and volunteers. We've got over 300 producers currently that are working with us, and we're hoping to expand that. One of the things that I did in my first 40 days was to really look around the country and to see what excellent media, community media looks like, and how we as a station to produce that. I'm proud to say that the board just completed a strategic plan for 2017 that really gives us, I think, the guidelines to be able to move forward. And I'd like to just highlight a few of those goals. One, we want to reinstate our ability to be able to serve you as the city council. In previous years, we have provided, and I want to say that that is available to you again, an opportunity to film what's going on in your ward and disseminate that information on one of our 3 channels. We also really want to expand our programming to be able to reach more senior citizens. We want to address the digital divide, make our telephones more than just something that our grandchildren can send us pictures on, but make them viable resources for seniors that have them to be able to use their phones properly. And so we're partnering with Best Buy, and we've got some other partners to really bring that digital information and put those kinds of programmings on our programs, but also to be able to use our center in space as a place where seniors can come and learn how to use digital technology. We want to capture the stories of all the people, and we're going to do that with some programming that's going to partner us with North High School, and we're going to do some things with the youth and journalism programs at North High, where we're going to train kids to use media and go out and tell the stories of people in our communities, to be those citizen journalists that we want to see, both training them to be to provide that kind of content that we put on our air and other media platforms, but also so that we can possibly, I think, help them think about media as a potential high-paying job and a career and a training program and those kinds of things. So we're looking for partnerships to be able to do that. We also really think that our local media is not doing very much local coverage. And when we looked at cities like Boston, they use their community radio stations to actually produce local news programs. And our even local news programs only produce about 2 to 3 minutes of local news. And it really is all the horrible things that are happening in our city, as opposed to some of the great things. So we want to create that content and hopefully have that content streamed and disseminated on other platforms, both video on demand platforms, but also possibly, hopefully, to be able to use by the media that we could create while we're bringing stories of communities, of every community, to the attention of the cities. Finally, I think we want to inform and educate. With the health disparities that I know exist in my own community, and 55% of the content that we create, and a majority of our viewers being African American, we've found things like a woman who does vegan soul food, vegan raw soul food, if you can believe that. And she's got some television programs, and we want to put her on the air, and we think that we can get those programs sponsored and underwritten by some of our healthcare providers like they've done in other cities. So we've got big plans. I think the big message that I would say is that, that we really want to leverage the resources that you've given us, the opportunity to be able to have the space. A majority of our funding comes currently from the city, and we want to expand that. But that what you've given us has given us the space, and it's given us the equipment, it's given us the staff, and it's given us the years to really build a reputation as a community media station. And now we're really ready to take that to the next level. So with that, I would end my comments and answer any questions you might have.
Very good. Thank you so much. It was.
Thank you.
It's always important to hear from Minneapolis Television Network because it is, for many ways, a voice of the city. So it's terrific to see you here and participating and doing so well as an organization. And the budget is basically flat from last year's allocation, but as you you emphasized a lot was about partnerships. You're looking for other additional revenue sources,
Mhm.
and those are coming through underwriting of programming as well as uh, costs passed through for editing, training, and expanding other opportunities for other people to come in and learn how to use the equipment. Um, Can you just speak real quickly? You mentioned about
I apologize. I
my
am a
fault.
little hard of hearing.
That's all right. It's my fault.
Okay.
The office space, you've recently made that transition. You're over in the Thorpe Building now in Northeast. How is that going? And what are you able to do in terms of budgetary savings, as well as what you're able to do with that space that's different than you were in your previous location?
Well, thank you for the question, Chair Quincy. Yes, the amount has not, and we're really hoping to leverage that. We've done just a titch with our 501c3, and we know, in my experience, and one of the reasons that I think that the board hired me is I'm a great fundraiser. I've ran lots of organizations and increased their budgets and those kinds of things with diversifying their streams of revenue. I think we've got a great asset. The space that we're currently in is working really well for us. We just put a big new sign up with some facade grant money and a partnership with the Northeast community. So people can now find us kind of tucked away around the corner of 18th and Central. It's a big, highly lit sign. We're also going out in the community and bringing people in. As a matter of fact, if somebody wants to Halloween, we're going to show Night of the Living Dead and serve popcorn to the community. So just getting a lot more visible in that space. And give candy out to the people in the community. But the space is really working well for us. I think we've also brought in some partners, and we're looking to do more partnership and working with other organizations in the arts and film arts and photography and those kinds of things to leverage the use of the space really well. The other last thing I'd say about the space that's really cool is that with a corridor, I don't know if you're familiar with where we are, but we're in the old ammunition building that's over Northeast, and that corridor of the building, and there's several corridors, but that particular corridor is very populated with people that do media. So Target shoots their ads. I don't know if I should say this, but anyways, other kinds of media and film productions, and there's a theater in that space. And so we're really forging really cool partnerships with some of our neighbors so that we can use the space and leverage it a little bit better.
Very good. Great to hear. It was an exciting time when we made that transition decision, and it took a while to get there. It took a lot of capital, and we were able to support that move. So I'm very pleased that it's working well for you and saving money.
If I could, I would commend a board of directors that really recognized that we were not living up to what we could be, and we could be a much better organization. And so I'm really pleased that they really, as a social entrepreneur, I'm really pleased that they really see the assets that we can leverage to really be a true asset to the city.
Well, very good. Well, thank you very much for your presentation. We have questions from Councilmember Reich and then Councilmember Palmisano.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Not so much a question, but just a comment. You are great neighbors in Ward 1.
I am really sorry.
Great, just a couple comments. Great neighbors in Ward 1, Northeast Minneapolis in the Thorpe Building. I think it's a real good fit, as you articulated. It's a very creative, eclectic building. And of course, MTN is a very creative, eclectic broadcaster. As you mentioned, everything from bread and butter PSAs and civic meetings to I don't think you do Freaky Deaky anymore, but as an extreme example of how fun and creative and unique the programming can be. So very unique stuff and very necessary stuff for the civic discourse, as you well articulated. And so I think there was always some conversation of it was TV out, where it's Facebook and everything, but no, TV is still a very vital way to communicate and have a community conversation. So I value your service.
Thank you.
Councilmember Palmisano.
Ms. Wells, I think the article about you was right when it said you run the most eclectic spot on the cable dial. Your treasurer, Mr. Reed, recently shared with me some positive press in the Star Tribune. And I understand you have a background in nonprofits and with Women Venture and in fundraising.
Yes.
Because I don't fully understand my colleague, Mr. Quincy's comments, I was curious, where do you see those additional fundraising opportunities from your perspective? What what one or two areas are you most focused on in this next year? Is it more grants or is it more underwriting of shows?
Well, thank you again, Councilmember Passam. I'm sorry, I can hardly hear and I speak worse. um, I really see a couple of areas that we can go in. I think first and foremost, I think where I tell the board all the time, the low-hanging fruit is the uses of our 501c3. When I look at the St. Paul network, and look at how they diversified their funding, I mean, there was just a model across the river to look at. That's what they leveraged at first. I think we're talking strategically right now with some foundations about work that we can do in youth and youth development. North High School is a journalism and media magnet for the city, and those kids are producing content all the time. We could get that content. I mean, and every kid that we know can create content on their telephone. But we want to get that content ready for YouTube. We want to get that content ready for all kinds of things. We've been talking to some kids about doing youth TED Talks and those kinds of things, which would be kind of cool. But anyways, those would be funded. And we've been in conversation with the foundation, corporate foundation community and family foundation community for that. The other area that I think that we can tap into is this whole thing of us as a connector and an engagement and a place for people to practice the small D of democracy. I think that there are also some funding streams when you look at Minneapolis and you look at a couple of other funding sources that are trying to figure out how to bring communities together. I think we can do that. But I also think, and as a matter of fact, just in the 40 days that I've been there, I've done it several times now. We've hired freelance filmmakers to go out and film for nonprofit organizations, for, of their kinds of events. And we really see that that's a revenue stream and a revenue source for us because of the low cost of our equipment, which is basically free, but basically to be able to hire people to be able to do that at a livable wage, but still at a wage where we can make a profit. And we can do that much better than, some marketing company, excuse me, John, but we can do that really a whole lot cheaper than, anybody else can do it. And I think that there's a great need for media out there in a lot of different venues. And so I think that the revenue stream, and if you know my work that I did with Women Venture, 33% of our budget was self-generated.
Super. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. That concludes that presentation. Appreciate that very much. And we're a little bit ahead of schedule, so we're very happy that Ms. Ferguson is here to join us. We're going to do the budget presentation for Human Resources Department and allow for a few moments of transition to the different slide deck. Ms. Ferguson, welcome.
Thank you, Council Chair Quincy and members of the subcommittee, Ways and Means Subcommittee. The goal today is to provide an overview of Mayor Hodges' recommended budget for the Human Resources Department. Working together in a spirit of continuous improvement, the Human Resources Department provides leadership and guidance that fosters a work environment dedicated to meet the needs and challenges of a world-class city. We have 4 functional areas. One is HR administration, the next one is employee services, the third area is HR technology solutions, and the fourth area is strategic workforce solutions. The slide in front of you, the budget slide, represents the overall budget summary for the department, including the mayor's recommended funding and change items. I will briefly describe an overview of the Human Resources Department's 4 functional areas. First is HR administration. The HR administration area ensures that the HR direction aligns with the city's values and goals. The focus is on ensuring equity and fairness in the workplace. In addition, through the administration of the STAR Employee Recognition Program, we provide an enterprise-wide employee-driven program designed to celebrate and recognize the great work that city employees do on a daily basis. The funding is from the general fund, and this area ties directly to the city goal of a city that works, as well as the city's equity values. This slide refers to a number of key policies this year that have been created, implemented, and improved, and also approved by the City Council. I'd briefly like to highlight a few of the key policies as well as the performance measures. First of all, the paid parental leave policy. Since its inception, 194 employees have received paid parental leave. We've also reallocated staff time, so we have a dedicated staff person who administers the program. We've also developed training for managers, and as a result, 40 managers have participated in the training sessions. We've also incorporated this information into our new onboarding programs for managers and supervisors. Number two, the classified service ordinance, which recently was approved by the City Council and repealed the rule of three, replaces the rule of three. We have already are working to establish a labor HR committee. We've had an initial discussion, and we've also scheduled some subsequent discussions with our labor partners within the next few weeks. Another area that you approved this year, and we thank you for this, was approving and establishing our enterprise-wide workforce goals around women and people of color. We have also, as a result of that, met with 100% of our 22 departments, and they have their goals, and now what we're doing is finalizing the reports of those goals. We've already met with City Coordinator Cronk, and then we will be finalizing those reports for publishing and distribution. Lastly, a few years ago, the City Council approved an investment in the Star Awards program. And I'm happy to report that the program is continuing to increase in the level of nominations as well as participations. The first year, which was a pilot year, we had 34 individuals who were recognized, and we've more than doubled in the second year the number of people who have been recognized for the great work that they're doing in the city of Minneapolis. The second area is strategic workforce solutions. And the focus of that division is to attracting, retaining, and engaging and managing the city's workforce. This division also aligns with the city's goal of a city that works as well as equity values. Since 2009, we have really seen some really interesting changes in terms of our hiring and recruiting, as you know. The increases in hiring have been offset by the number of people of color and women who have left city employment. So as a result of that, and in addition to aligning with our overall workforce goals around hiring new employees to the city, we really have embarked on taking a variety of recruitment and retention strategies. And I'd like to just give you a couple of examples of some things that we're doing. We are taking a deliberate and intentional approach that is designed to deepen our efforts in creating a workforce environment. We have recognized that we cannot just look at the hiring part, we also need to look at the retention of employees once they get here. So with that in mind, we've also are working to even deepen an environment that supports an engaging and inclusive environment for all of our employees. This year, we've taken a very strong focus on orienting, training, and developing leaders and supervisors. We have created a new onboarding program for appointed leaders. We're in the process of rolling out an additional onboarding program for supervisors. We have created another workshop called Managing a Diverse Workforce, and we have finalized and are implementing a new employee engagement survey. In addition, as we've mentioned in previous presentations, we've also rolled out a cultural intelligence training for supervisors, which is focusing on reducing and minimizing unconscious bias in the in the selection process. I'm happy to report that to date, 230 supervisors and managers have completed the course. The next phase that we're working on is that we have requested from the budget is to do some additional work with our individual contributors as well as our interview panels. So with that in mind, what we are requesting is additional funding to accelerate the design and delivery of programs with a particular focus on interview panels, as well as for those employees who do direct service. And how we will monitor the work that we're doing is to look at a couple of areas, not only our analytics, but our workforce planning and equity efforts through our planning process. And then we'll also be using the data from the My Minneapolis Employee Engagement Survey. And this is a one-time request from the mayor.
Yeah, Ms. Ferguson, that is
Yes.
I'm glad you pointed that out. It is one-time funding.
Yes,
And is this the amount that's $50,000 in the change?
it's 50,000,
And
yes.
do you anticipate using an outside consultant for that, or how are you going to use
What we will do that, thank you, Council Chair Quincy. That money will be used to hire a consultant to actually to help design the program. And if I may, I'd like to share with you what our approach is around any trainings that we do. We feel it is very important not to just take something off the shelf. So our process in human resources is, and it will be the same with this, we actually will pilot it. And so we have focus group with employees who will be impacted by that particular training. So we will hire someone to work with us in collaboration with our partner departments to design it, and then our staff will be the people who deliver it. So that's why we've only asked for, through the mayor's request, one-time budget. It will also help us to accelerate the work.
Thank you.
The next area of focus is in HR technology solutions. The HR technology solutions area and the focus of that area is on providing technology systems, applications, and training to support the hiring, retention, benefits and wellness, compensation, performance management, and compliance within the city of Minneapolis. This particular area also ties to the city goals of a city that works, as well as the city's equity values. I'd like to just briefly talk about a few of the key performance measures in that area. One is this year we were able to automate and streamline the hiring process for over 2,300 election judges. Prior to this year, that information was manually coded into the system. And I'm happy to report we did achieve our goal. We have eliminated the manual entry of which has also freed up valuable staff time. It has also helped to improve efficiency and effectiveness. Another example of performance measures in that particular area is that we have completed compliance training for city representatives who process mandatory hiring forms. We've had 100% completion rate, and these are our I-9 representatives. And in addition, we have also delivered 15 different Microsoft Office classes to employees in the city of Minneapolis. Another area of human resources is employee services. And the focus of this particular area is around labor relations, classifications, compensation, leave administration, workforce investigations, benefits, and wellness. And again, this area ties to the city's goal of a city that works, as well as the city's equity values. The mayor is recommending that we establish in the budget that there's an establishment of one additional position in the classification and compensation unit. This additional full FTE will increase the overall effectiveness and efficiency of the unit, improve service time, maintain job data accuracy, and also maintain competitive and affordable salary rates. It will also allow for the addition of important equity work that we have been asked to do based on the direction of the City Council, help us to create some redundancy for both of our classification and compensation unit, and will allow the unit to incorporate the new work that has been driven by the city's equity and inclusion goals. Why the change is needed is because, quite frankly, work is being done differently due to changing needs. If this year alone, we've done more reclassification studies than we've done in a very, very long time. We've also had different jobs, the way the jobs are being done. Every single time that happens, we have to do another reclassification study. And then there's just also an increase in the work being done due to changing priorities. So with that in mind, the mayor's budget is requesting that resource to help us do the work that we need to do in a much more effective and efficient way. So the next area is employee services. And this is a one-time request, and it's in the benefits and wellness area. And this is to help us be in compliant with some of the regulations associated with the Affordable Care Act. The mayor is recommending to outsource production, mailing, and filing with the IRS of the 2016 health information returns so that we can demonstrate compliance with the Affordable Care Act. The employees also will use this information to prove that they have health care coverage to avoid income tax penalties associated with the lack of health care coverage. We are still working with the Oracle, the vendor that we have, to get the system up and running, and we're not confident that that will happen before the end of the year. And there are severe penalties if we do not do the work that we need to do. There are severe penalties that could be incurred by the city of Minneapolis. And again, this is a one-time, this would be a one-time funding for this particular request. I'd just like to highlight some performance measures in the employee services area that I feel are very noteworthy. First of all, we continue to have successful implementation of our collective bargaining processes. In addition, we have very strong labor management partnerships, and I've just highlighted a few examples of that. Labor was involved in the revisions of our civil service rules. They were very much involved in our Rule of Three discussions. As a result of that, as I've mentioned earlier, we have we're working on a brand new labor HR committee that's modeled off the very successful Labor Management Benefits Committee. They've also been very helpful. Our labor relations team has really worked with labor to look at work differently, and a great example of that most recently is the fire department's EMS Academy. And in the benefits area, I'm very pleased to report that we started a new initiative this year. It was a benefits summit, and we had 80 participants to really help employees understand the full opportunities that they can take advantage of with our benefits. We have a great benefits program. We felt we wanted to do a better job of communicating that so that employees would know a little bit more about what resources are available to them as employees. In addition, with our wellness program, I'm pleased to report that 80% of our employees have participated in the wellness program this year. We started out with 45% in 2009, and each year it continues to grow, which is great because not only does that show that employees want to take charge of their health, but it also has resulted in reduced healthcare premiums. And so we will continue to look at those numbers. This is also well above industry standard.
Oh, that's great news.
I'm available to stand for questions.
Well, thank you very much, Ms. Ferguson. It's been an outstanding last several years as you've been incorporating new systems and having significant changes in how we're recruiting and retaining employees and the survey work. And we've listened to employees and we've enacted things, including the STARS program. It's just tremendous activity that's been happening in our HR department. And it's not just keeping the HR department functioning well. you're a support department for the rest of the city. So all of our departments function better when HR is doing well. So thank you so much for your contributions. Councilmember Palmisano.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate the one aspect, the one slide you had on strategic workforce solutions and cultural intelligence training. And I also know that you have been part of several of our audits this year and part
Yes.
of the audit activity. And one of the things that I know you are working to remediate is about offboarding and helping to train supervisors on how to offboard employees. I don't see that in here. So is that seen as a cost, not a new cost, something that you will incur with regular operations? I
We,
hope it's an ongoing initiative.
Councilmember Palmisano, yes, we have not anticipated any cost associated with that. As a matter of fact, just today, I was reviewing Teresa Nisler, who is the director of HRTS. We have set a goal of having that completed by the end of the year, the work that you were referring to. And so I don't anticipate any cost as far as I know of. We are able to absorb that in our existing budget without any additional cost.
So then, just to be clear, you expect it to be done by the end of this year?
I believe so. I
Okay.
mean, that's the goal. Our goal is to have the work completed by December 31st, 2016.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Very helpful. Good reminder on that project. It was an important finding that we learned. Okay, well, not seeing anything further. Thank you very much, Ms. Ferguson. Thank you, Mr. Cronk. For the first half, we'll be reconvening at 1:30, where we will be having the budget presentation from the Internal Audit Department, Department of Information Technology Department, and the Minneapolis Convention Center, as well as Target Center and Meet Minneapolis, followed by the Finance and Property Services Department budget presentation. So thank you very much. We'll see you back at 1:30.